So John Butchergross has said something that I agree with, and I'm going to talk about that and other stuff too, but mostly about John Butchergross and what he said, and I'm going to expand on that and share my opinion on what he said and why I like it. So I'm going to put this up on the screen. John Butchergross on his Twitter page says this is important. In markets like Columbus, young men and women who grew up with the Blue Jackets are now taking kids to Blue Jackets, have babies, create hockey fans, exclamation point, heart emoji. And he is responding to a tweet from Danny Smith at Danny Smith Spencer or at the Danny Smith on Twitter, saying, I cannot believe I get to take my baby to her first hockey game this season. OMG, go Jackets. Some sort, I think, like happy face with like a kind of tear emoji thing. The cycle continues. And, I know Danny. I've met her in Columbus, and I like her. And she did have a kid back in July with her husband Kyle, who I also met and I also like. I've also met him at Blue Jackets games, as well as Danny at Blue Jackets games. So that's what John Butchergross responds to. And he's right. Because for a good chunk of Columbus's existence, Ohio State was the big dog. Ohio State was really the only thing to do in town. Ohio State was generally speaking was the only thing to do in Columbus. From an outsider perspective, that's why you would go to Columbus, generally speaking. From an outsider perspective, Columbus had a cowtown image. Like, oh, Columbus, what's that? Why would you go there? I don't know what that is. So many teams over the years tried to make it work in Columbus. And, for the most part, it didn't really work. They'd have some short-term success, and then they would go away. Because in part, one could make the argument that perhaps they didn't go about it the correct way, but also this was the truth at the time, which is Ohio State has Columbus by the balls, whipped. Metaphorically speaking, what they say goes. They're the only thing that matters in Columbus from a cultural standpoint, because when you're the only thing that generally speaking matters in town, you're going to get the most attention. You're going to think that matters the most from a cultural standpoint. Ohio State stuff is everywhere there. So then there's this feeling that pops up over the years of, well, we don't need a professional sports team. We have Ohio State, even though they're just a college. And yes, I know Ohio State is very big, very popular, not just in Columbus, but all over Ohio. And yes, Ohio State has fans all over America too. One of those people. I do like Ohio State. But at the same time, that only gets you so far. And when you have this mindset, it's okay, we don't need a professional sports team. We're just Ohio. We have Ohio State. Well, cool. Then don't be surprised when you miss out on so many opportunities that you could have gotten, but you don't have the setup to do big time events. The Columbus Chill Factor, a book that tells the hockey history of Columbus, talks about this. How there are so many opportunities that Columbus could have gotten over the years, but didn't. Instead, it went to Cincinnati or Cleveland if you were going to Ohio. Because, again, for some time, Columbus had this cowtown image from an outsider perspective. What's Columbus? What's that? I don't know what that is. You know, you'd only go there for Ohio State, generally speaking. And sports teams would come and go. They would fail, and it didn't really work. Short-term success, minimal success. They would go away. And then it's a feeling of, you would see the track record of all these teams that tried and didn't really work and go away. And then you see that, and then it's like, well, why would I try to do it? Have a team there? It doesn't work. They're only interested in Ohio State. But really, it wasn't really. But as I was saying before, it really wasn't until the 90s when the Columbus Chill, a minor league hockey, gets to Columbus, that is really the beginning of something new in Columbus, where that started to break down the hold, the grip that Ohio State had on Columbus. Effectively, one might say it was starting to break down Columbus's version of Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, break down the barrier that has been around Columbus for so long, where Ohio State is the only thing that matters. And that was slowly going away, because along come the Columbus Chill, a minor league hockey team in the 90s that becomes so successful and so popular, it became a real grassroots movement that people loved going there. Never went to those games because, a little too young for that. Also, I don't live in Ohio or Columbus, so I never got the chance to go. Probably would have if given the chance. But, kind of little too, I was kind of, to a certain degree, was alive during that time period, but kind of like, kind of young there. But that's besides the point. And the Columbus Chill really kind of set the groundwork to where eventually the Blue Jackets come. And then eventually the Blue Jackets are now, in today's world, a part of Columbus. The Blue Jackets are that important to Columbus. But we'll back this up here. Along come the Columbus Chill. It becomes big and popular. It starts to break down the barrier that is this barrier that's over Columbus, that gets rid of a lot of the hold that Ohio State has on Columbus. Ball buster, wall destroyer, whatever you want to call it. In the Columbus Chill Factor book, again, it also talks about, like, it would nice to have a professional sports team there. And yes, you had the Clippers at the time, and you still do, but the Clippers are the minor league affiliate for Cleveland. And starting in 1996, you also had the Crew soccer. So, like, that does count. You do have professional sports, but it's no disrespect to them. But the reality is, generally speaking, when you look at how professional sports are in America, the only ones that matter are, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. You might as well not matter from an outside perspective. So the people in the Columbus Chill Factor book talked about how it would be nice if we could have a professional sports team so that you didn't have to go 2 hours to Cleveland or 2 hours to Cincinnati if you wanted to go to a game. The people who fought for the Blue Jackets to come to Columbus, Mr. Mack, the original owner of the Blue Jackets, as well as, there are other people too. Nationwide Insurance. You had, obviously, the people who brought the Columbus Chill to Columbus. They were also a big part in fighting for the Blue Jackets to come to Columbus because they understood that Columbus was a good place, but it could be better. Columbus did not just have to be an Ohio State town. Columbus could be better. Columbus could be more than that. They see the potential. They see what Columbus could be. And it's easy to say this now, 20 plus years later, but they were proven to be right. Columbus is more than just an Ohio State town. Ohio State is not the only thing to do in Columbus anymore. Obviously, the Blue Jackets are here, and the Crew, and the Clippers, and Joe Burrow owns a volleyball team here now with the Columbus Fury. And the most recent news came out that Columbus is getting a UFL team, the Columbus Aviators. And the Crew's minor league team, Columbus Crew 2, is here. And the downtown arena district with all the bars and the restaurants and the stores, the hotels, and that's where the Blue Jackets and the Crew and the Clippers are. And, Joe Burrow's volleyball team, the Fury, are also there. All of that happened because of the Blue Jackets. The people who fought to get the Blue Jackets to come to Columbus knew that Columbus could be better. They knew that it could be more than just an Ohio State town. And they were proven to be correct. Because you fast forward 20 plus years later, and you look at what Columbus is right now. It's a city on the rise. It's now top 20 in population. Not that long ago, it passed San Francisco for the 14th biggest city in America. The most recent Census Bureau, the most recent census data from 2020 shows that now Columbus is now the biggest city in the state of Ohio, beating out Cincinnati and Cleveland. Anytime there's a big time event now in Columbus, that's where it's going. Anytime there's a big time event in Ohio, they're going to Columbus. Columbus is the first choice. Sports to anime to political, bodybuilding, cheerleading, comic book conventions, concerts, religious events. It's so much more. You can go down the list. If there's a big time event that's coming to Ohio, it's coming to Columbus because Columbus is the place to be. You have a big time event, that's coming to Ohio, you're picking Columbus. That is your first choice. It is no disrespect to Cincinnati or Cleveland or anywhere else in Ohio. If you have a choice to go to Ohio, Columbus is your first choice. All of this happened because of the Blue Jackets. That cowtown image that they had, that Columbus had from an outsider perspective, gone, dead, not a thing anymore. Columbus has more legitimacy now because of the Blue Jackets coming to Columbus. The Blue Jackets transformed one of the, not the greatest areas in Columbus, which was downtown Columbus, to now it is the best area in Columbus. It is the crown jewel of Columbus. That is the place to be that you want to go to when you're in Columbus. Really fun. A fun night out on the town there. That is where you want to be when you're in Columbus. That wasn't always the case, but now it is. You want to be there. Whether that be for Crew game, Clippers game, Joe Burrow's volleyball team, all the bars and the restaurants and the stores, and there's hotels and the Blue Jackets. The Arena District is where you want to be. All of that happens because of the Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets are that important. When you look at the demographics of Columbus and how it used to be for a good chunk of Columbus's existence, it was Ohio State. That was it, generally speaking. And that is why, for some time, it's a very, very, very passionate group of people there of Ohio State fans there, because that's all they had. It's a almost borderline cult-like mentality. And it's taken some time to get away from that nonsense, that almost borderline cult mentality. But we're starting to get away from it because there's such a thing, and just in sports in general, it's like, oh yeah, your grandpa went to games, and then your grandpa took your dad to games, and then your dad took you to games, and then now you grow up and you take your kids to games, and then those kids will grow up and take their kids to games. And the cycle repeats itself again and again and again and again. That's what people were doing with Ohio State and Columbus. And now, starting October 2000, people grew up in a world where you didn't have to just do Ohio State. You had more stuff to do. You could go to Blue Jackets games. And now, those people who grew up, they had their mom, their dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whatever, take them to a Blue Jackets game. And guess what? Those people are now grown up. And they remember growing up in a world where they remember going to a Blue Jackets game. They remember living in a Columbus where it wasn't just an Ohio State town anymore. Ohio State wasn't the only thing to do in Columbus. They remember going to a Blue Jackets game, or a Crew game, or a Clippers game. They remember doing this. They remember doing that. And now those people who are grown up, they're getting married, they're having kids, and now they are going to take their kids to a Blue Jackets game. And this is going to start a big demographic change in Columbus. We're going to see more and more and more and more Blue Jackets fans. The Blue Jackets have always had fans. They've always had a good fan base, good support that are always there. If, bad, in the middle, or good, always there. But that's going to get even bigger and better now, because now the cycle begins, because the people who grew up that went to Blue Jackets games, they're now grown up. They're getting married. They're having kids. They're taking their kids to Blue Jackets games. And now those kids are going to grow up and they're going to get married. They're going to have kids. And like, oh, yeah, I remember when my mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, uncle, or whatnot took me to a Blue Jackets game. I remember that. And now I'm going to take my kid to a Blue Jackets game. And then those kids are going to grow up. And they're going to get married, and they're going to take their kids to a Blue Jackets game. And it's just going to keep, the cycle continues. It's just going to keep going and going and going and going. So this tweet here by John Butchergross is absolutely right. It is absolutely correct. We are finally, really making serious progress to just get rid of a lot of this just Ohio State nonsense. We're breaking down that barrier. And again, I like Ohio State, but it's just too much. They've had Columbus by the balls for too long. Enough. We're done with that nonsense. Columbus is a much more better place now that we have options besides Ohio State. Columbus is a much better place that we can do stuff that doesn't involve Ohio State. That's just how it is. It's better to have options. Columbus is a better place that we can say, yeah, we have Blue Jackets, we have Crew, we have Clippers, and Joe Burrow owns a volleyball team here, and we have Ohio State, and we're getting the UFL football team. It's so much better that way. It just is. March 2025, not that long ago, the Blue Jackets have an outdoor game at Ohio State that set records for most, for the best TV ratings for an outdoor hockey game since 2019. It set a record for second highest ever attended hockey game, over 94,000 plus. I was there. It was awesome. One of the greatest moments of my life, one of the best sporting events I've been to. And the Blue Jackets won, and it was awesome. 5-3, they beat Detroit. Awesome. The world got to see what an awesome place Columbus is. The world got to see the Blue Jackets. Millions of views all over the world got to see that. They got to see the Blue Jackets. So much positive energy and so much positive momentum and attention was built that day for Columbus and the Blue Jackets. And that happened because of the Blue Jackets. That's not happening because of Ohio State. Ohio State, you are big, you are popular, you have done so much for Columbus. You have fans all over Ohio and America, including me. But at the same time, you're just a college. That can only take you so far. Bengal Jim, who's a big Bengals fan, he has a show that he does on YouTube with his friends, and he calls it Bengals Jim and Friends, where they talk about the Bengals. And one of the more recent episodes that they had Elizabeth Blackburn, who is is one of the big marketing people for the Bengals. A lot of the more recent stuff within at least 4 or 5 years that you've seen with the Bengals in regards to marketing, new jerseys and, You see the Ring of Honor and the Ruler of the Jungle and Open in Orange, which is the orange out that the Bengals do, where everyone in the crowd wears orange, and you know the Bengals have an all orange look, orange helmet, orange jersey, orange pants, and the white out, the whole white tiger look. Bengals white helmet, white jersey, white pants, white socks, white shoes, and everyone in the crowd wears white. And there's a whole bunch of ideas. That's her. And the point was made to her for one of the Bengals Jim's friends on the show that if you, generally speaking, that if you don't have a professional sports team, you don't matter, because a professional sports team brings so much attention to your city. It gives a big reason to come to your city. People like sports, people like going to games, and people like going to a place to see a game. It's that important. And again, as big and as popular as you are, Ohio State, and you are very popular, you are very big, you're just a college. And that's not going to get it done for many people. Professional sports are bigger than college sports. Even as big and popular as Ohio State is, professional sports, generally speaking, are going to beat college sports. That's how it is. More people are more interested in professional sports than college sports. So when you have a professional team, it's that much more important and gives people a reason to come. More people are more likely to come to your city for a professional game than a college. It's that big, it's that important. Also, Ohio State calls themselves Ohio State Buckeyes, not Columbus Buckeyes. So if you didn't know that they're from Columbus, you just assume, oh, Ohio State, they must be somewhere in Ohio. But it's like, oh, Columbus, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Columbus Clippers, the Columbus Crew, the Columbus Fury, the Columbus Aviators, Columbus Crew 2. They have Columbus in their name. They're proud to show it. It helps put Columbus on the map. Not to say that Ohio State doesn't do that. They do, but not as much. Professional sports teams are that important. That's just how it is. The Blue Jackets are that important to Columbus. They transformed a bad area into a good area. It helped get rid of that cowtown image that Columbus had. Ohio State was never going to do that. Never. That's the truth. That is the truth. You know, all these big, I've said earlier on in the video, but all these big time events that now come to Columbus is because of the Blue Jackets coming to Columbus. That Ohio State could never do that. Never. Sorry. You could never do that. Any big time political event or sporting event or anime or comic book, you know, the bodybuilding, the cheerleading, any concerts or big time religious events or whatever. They're all coming to Columbus because of the Blue Jackets coming to Columbus, because the Blue Jackets are the one that transformed a bad area into a good area that is now the best of the best, a crown jewel of Columbus, an area that everyone wants to be in, an area that's so good that you have two hockey teams, the Detroit Red Wings and the Buffalo Sabres, send representatives from their respective organizations to go to Columbus and look at what the Blue Jackets have and study it and say, we need to have something like this. We need to have our own version of this. And they have. They now have their own version of an arena district, just like what the Blue Jackets have. Ohio State, sorry. I like you, but you never could have done that. That's just how it is. And, some people aren't going to like to hear that because, they're big Ohio State people, and I get that. But a lot of you have been told that Ohio State is like the greatest thing ever, and they can't do anything wrong. And that's wrong. Just people in general, you can't think that. There's been times when, the Blue Jackets or any other sports team, they've done something bad, they've done something good. You call them out when they do something bad, you show them, you call them out in a good way when they do something good, you show them praise. Nobody is perfect, nobody is bad all the time, nobody is good all the time. It's somewhere in the middle. That's how it is. Just that's a Cowtown image gone. The Blue Jackets are that important to Columbus. Transforming a bad area to a good area, and so much more. Gave Columbus desperate legitimacy that they desperately needed. When you have people that want bold action, that a ballsy move, which it was, standing up against Ohio State and the Columbus media that did not want this. They didn't want the Blue Jackets to come. Instead, they stood, and the state government of Ohio worked with Ohio State to try and stop the Blue Jackets from coming to Columbus. The shot in Steen Center, where Ohio State men's hockey and both basketball teams play for Ohio State plays, that was built in an attempt to stop Nationwide Arena from happening, where the Blue Jackets played. That's failed, and it's backfired because now Ohio State is stuck with a god-awful building. Average at best if you're being nice. It's not very good for sporting events. Concerts, it's okay, and but you're stuck with it. It's average. It's not very good. Average at best if you're being nice, if you're being charitable. Because if you look at any time there's a big time event, guess what? You need a building that holds 18,000, 20,000, whatever. They're picking Nationwide Arena. That's their first choice. That's for all the big time events, from concerts to sporting events, conventions, religious events, and so much more. They're going there. They're not picking the shot. Ohio State is stuck with that because it backfired. And that's just how it is. And no, I'm not saying that Columbus will stop being an Ohio State town. That's not going to happen. Ohio State, like the Blue Jackets, will always be a part of Columbus. But it's not just an Ohio State town anymore. And when you look at the demographics and how things are going, it will be a more balanced approach. You will still like Ohio State, but you will also like the Blue Jackets now, and that's going to cut into this just ridiculous nonsense where you're overly obsessive about Ohio State, borderline cult, where Ohio State's the only thing that matters and gets all the attention. It's not going to happen, and it's not going to happen anymore. It's not going to work. ABC6 News is starting to realize this. They are on the forefront of this. They are the first ones in the Columbus media that are starting to see this and understand this. They see where this is going. They understand that more people are like the Blue Jackets now. and they want more Blue Jackets coverage. Yes, you will do Ohio State coverage, but at the same time, there will be more Blue Jackets coverage because they understand where things are going. Instead of 100% Ohio State, it's not going to, over the years, it's going to get chunked down to 70% Ohio State, to where the 30% is Blue Jackets with some Clippers, some Crew, and so on and so forth. But it's been 25 years now since the Blue Jackets have come to Columbus. And the Blue Jackets are now a solid 1B in Columbus. Ohio State 1A, the Blue Jackets are 1B. And it's not going away. When you have what John Butcher-Gross has said, when you have people that grew up in a world with the Blue Jackets and now they're growing up and they're taking their kids to Blue Jackets games, that's going to change the demographics of Columbus forever. The Columbus of just Ohio State is dead. It's long gone. It's not coming back. And that's outstanding. That's great news. Columbus does not need that stupid, idiotic nonsense of just being an Ohio State town. That's bland. That's boring. That's not original. It's not. Oh, you're a college town? You like a college? Okay, that's cool. Okay. Boring. Yawn. So does just about every college town in America. But it's like, what's this? You can have the Blue Jackets, you can have the Crew, you can have the Clippers, and you have a volleyball team, and you're going to get essentially minor league football to go with Ohio State. That makes you unique, different. It helps you stand out. It makes you that much better. Like, no disrespect to you, like people out in Iowa, but you're out in Iowa. Like, all you have is college. That's it. For, like your big time event is college, Iowa State. That's it. You don't have NHL, you don't have MLB, you don't have NBA, you don't have NFL. That's all you have. And that's kind of bland and boring. That would suck. If you lived in a state where your whole personality from a sports perspective, where you have nothing else to do, is just a college. Boring. It's the same thing like Alabama. Sports perspective. Oh, Alabama. That's your big thing. What else are you going to do? Nothing. It's boring. No other sports personality. But when you have what Columbus has now, you're not boring. You're not bland. You are original because Columbus can say that, oh, you want hockey? Blue Jackets. You want soccer? Crew. You want baseball? The Clippers. Joe Burrow has a volleyball team here, so you want volleyball? Go see that. And obviously Columbus is getting essentially, what I consider, I know it's not minor league football, it's another professional league, but I might as well consider it minor league football because guys play in this league, they do good, and then You see it where some guys go play in the NFL. Feeder team. And you have all these bars and restaurants and stores and hotels and so much more that happen because of the Blue Jackets. When you have all of that, it's that much better. It helps your city stand out. Oh, why should I go there? Oh, it's just a college town? Okay. Yawn, bland, boring. Yeah, well, let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere else. Oh, you have a hockey team. You have football, baseball, basketball, soccer, a volleyball team. Ooh, okay. You have this, you have this, you that. Oh, okay. Ooh, yeah, okay, let's go there. It's that important. The Blue Jackets changed Columbus forever for the better, in a good way. To that extent, to that magnitude, that is so big, so monumental, so powerful to change Columbus forever in a good way. Because of the Blue Jackets. They're that important to Columbus. Ohio State, you could never do that. You couldn't. That big, that powerful, that monumental, life-changing. Sorry, you can't. As big, as powerful as you are, and all the fans that you have, including me, you could never, you're just a college. That's how it is. No one's going to Columbus just for Ohio State anymore. It's the Blue Jackets and the Crew and Clippers and so much more. That outdoor hockey game is not happening just because of Ohio State. Because there is no draw. Ohio State hockey, from an outsider perspective, like, why would you do that? No, if you want hockey, you want NHL. And that's where the Blue Jackets come in. That outdoor game happened because of the Blue Jackets. That is the reason that it happened. Ohio State sure played a role to a certain extent, but that is not the main reason. It's the Blue Jackets. If the Blue Jackets are not in Columbus, that outdoor game is not happening. It's going somewhere else. And that's just how it is. And Ohio State, historically, they're average at best. And compared to other schools like Wisconsin or Minnesota or Michigan State or Boston College, North Dakota, etc., they don't really put effort into their hockey program. They're just okay with just being average at best. They're okay with just being a football school. And then you let all your other sports teams that Ohio State have just, metaphorically speaking, just rot. Don't really pay much attention to them. And, they're average at best. And, sometimes maybe they'll have a good year. They'll have a good team. Maybe they'll win the Big Ten. Maybe they'll make the NCAA tournament. And if you're lucky, if you're good enough, maybe you'll make it to like the Frozen Four for hockey, or maybe you'll make it to the Final Four for basketball. Maybe you'll win a national championship. That's if you're lucky. Because you hear this so many times. Oh, it's in the Columbus media. Oh, well, Ohio State, yeah, they're going to get a new hockey facility. Okay. They're going to vote on it. Yeah, they're going to do it. And I've been hearing that for years. And then you don't hear nothing. You don't. So at some time, it's shit or get off the pot. You're either going to do it or you're going to do it. And you look at Ohio State's track record, in my opinion, no, they're not going to do it. It's lip service. It's making you think that they're going to do something. It's making you feel good about it. It's making you think of them in a more positive way. Well, they're saying they're going to do it. Okay, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So that's just, how it is. And until Ohio State makes the decision to get rid of this stupid, idiotic football only mindset, that's what they're going to be. Until they get rid of that mindset, no other team is going to get better consistently. And I get it, football, big, popular. That made Ohio State what you are today. It's the most moneymaker. I get that. But at the same time, you can't have a good football team and put a lot of effort into it and spend a lot of money on it. But you can also put effort into other programs. Michigan, they are an example of this. Historically good at football and historically good at hockey. The history that they have with national championships and Big Ten championships, Frozen Four appearances, multiple NCAA tournament appearances. The amount of guys they put in the NHL is ridiculously good. Just look at the Blue Jackets. Historically, some of the best players they've ever had are Michigan guys. Jack Johnson, Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson, Zach Werenski, all Michigan guys. You can't say that about Ohio State. There is no big name star, big name player that's really good that's come out of Ohio State. You get, every so often you'll get a good player, but most of the time it's just average at best players. It's just mid. Because that's what Ohio State is when it comes to hockey. They're not really interested in putting a lot of effort into their hockey program. And yes, I know Ohio State women's hockey, they have, last four, they played in the last four national championships and they've won two of them. Good on you for doing that. But I'm not talking about you. We're talking about the men's hockey team. And given the fact that, you look at Ohio State historically, they're just a football school that doesn't really put a lot of effort into other teams. It's amazing that the women's hockey team has had the success that they've had, given the fact that they don't want to get paid attention to, given the fact of if you're a sports team not named Ohio State, if a sports team for Ohio State that's not named football, you really don't matter to them. You're useless. You might as well be a second-class citizen. You don't matter to them. That's just how it is. The women's hockey team play at a pee-wee rink, which is unacceptable. It's embarrassing that a school like that has their women's hockey team, which is consistently good now, won 2 national championships, is playing in a pee-wee rink. The shot's awful. Like, the men's hockey team plays at the shot. Awful. It's awful. Like, the games are fun. I've been there. They're fun. But it's off the environment where they play. Awful. So that's just, how it is. So as I said before in this video, we are now going, John Butchergross is right. We're now going to see people who grew up going to Blue Jackets games and have now grown up and now are going to take their kids to Blue Jackets games. And then those kids will grow up and then they'll take their kids to Blue Jackets games and so on and so forth. It's that important, and Columbus will be that much better. It just is. It's that much better. The idea of just being an Ohio State town is long gone. It's dead. And it's not coming back, and that's a great thing. It will Columbus, not only just an Ohio State town, but it's now a Blue Jackets town. And so much more. The Blue Jackets are that important to Columbus. They've changed the perception of Columbus. Cowtown image, long gone, dead. When I tell all my family and friends, I go, Kevin, why do you go to Columbus? And I tell them, oh, the Blue Jackets and this and that. And I show them pictures and videos. Oh, cool. And then I take them there. I take them to Columbus, and I show them the Blue Jackets. I take them to Blue Jackets games, and I show them around Columbus, whether it be Short North or the Crew, the Clippers, and and our bar, and you take them to different restaurants in and around Columbus, and you show them German Village and North Market. And yes, Ohio State and this and that and so much more. They love it. They understand it. They love Columbus. They want to go back. They say, Kevin, when are you going back to Columbus? I want to go back. And like, oh, well, we're going back to Columbus here. Like, okay, I want to come with. My Aunt Karen, back in October 2023, took her and my Uncle Chris to Columbus for a Blue Jackets game. And we showed them around town and all the sights and sounds of Columbus. And they loved it. And my Aunt Karen, she wants to come back. It's like, well, I can't do it this year, but I really want to go back next year. Next year being, October 2026. Like, oh, that's going to be my big trip for fall. Couldn't do it this year because, they went down to Georgia. But it's like, no, I want to go next year. That's going to be my big fall trip next year. I want to go back to Columbus. I want to do the Blue Jackets game. I want to do this. I want to do that. And once people get it, they understand it, they want to go back. Columbus, underrated city, underrated place to be. And the first thing that I tell them when I tell them about Columbus is the Blue Jackets. Sure, I'll talk a little about Ohio State and the Crew and the Clippers and a bunch of other stuff, but the Blue Jackets are the main focus. They're that important, and people should know about them. You go to Columbus, you go to a Blue Jackets game. My opinion. That's what you should do. And if you didn't go to a Blue Jackets game, or at bare minimum, if you didn't just stop by Nationwide Arena and say hi to the Blue Jackets, you didn't go to Columbus, in my opinion. That didn't count. Try again. Get your butt to Columbus. Go see the Blue Jackets play. Or stop by Nationwide Arena where the Blue Jackets are and say hi. That's the proper way to go to Columbus, in my opinion. Okay. And, I met the parents of Robert Tonyan, who is a tight end in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs. And and of course, it was at Deli's party, who's, her 65th wedding anniversary. And that was, family on my mom's side of the family. And it was a good party. I enjoyed it. And I like Deli. But at that day, I had an Ohio State polo shirt on that day. And I'm walking around at the party, and then someone stops me. Oh, hey, I like your shirt. And like, oh, yeah, thanks. And like, oh, I love Columbus. I love going there. The tailgating scene is awesome. And of course, they're talking about Ohio State. It's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But then right then and there, I immediately start talking to them like about the Blue Jackets, just, metaphorically speaking, pound it in their face. Metaphorically speaking, shove it in their face about the Blue Jackets because everyone should know about it. That is the correct way to talk about Columbus, in my opinion. That is the correct way to go to Columbus, in my opinion. If you're going there just for Ohio State, in my opinion, that's bland, that's boring, that's not original. Explore Columbus. Go to a Blue Jackets game. Do this, do that. You didn't really go to Columbus, in my opinion, if you're just going there for Ohio State. Go to a Blue Jackets game. Go do this, do that. Explore Columbus. And I pulled out my phone. I showed pictures from the Blue Jackets outdoor game at Ohio State. And I showed them pictures from a Blue Jackets game that I went to back in April when the Blue Jackets played the Capitals, and they smoked that ass and they beat them 7-0, destroyed them. One of the best games I've ever been to. And because they said, because like their son's one of their kids' wife went to Ohio State or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really remember exactly, and I think that was probably it. I think. Like, cool, yeah. I mean, cool, you went to Columbus, but, Ohio State, okay, fine, but try again. Do better. Go to a Blue Jackets game. Do this, do that. Go explore Columbus. If you need to get rid of this stupid, idiotic, dumb, ridiculous mindset that Columbus equals Ohio State. You need to get rid of that. That needs to die. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Throw it in the trash. Metaphorically speaking, and literally, throw it in the trash. Get rid of it. Get rid of that stupid, dumb, idiotic mindset. It's nonsense. Get rid of it. Go to a Blue Jackets game. Do this, do that. There's so much more in Columbus than just Ohio State. That's just how it is. And also, this is an article in the Columbus Dispatch back in like 2014. So it's been more than 10 years. And I'd be curious to see if there was a follow-up on this and what it's like now. But there was a big change in demographics where you had a lot of people from Middle Eastern countries coming to Columbus and living there. And that certainly has changed the demographics to a certain extent in Columbus. And do you think those people from the Middle Eastern countries give two shits about Ohio State? No. That has kind of helped turn it just a little bit. They're probably more interested in the crew now. Maybe they live there now for a bit. They like the Blue Jackets a little bit. Heck, you even got some people that used to, they're from Canada. Now they live in Columbus. That's beneficial to the Blue Jackets, not Ohio State. Ohio State will always be an important part of Columbus. So will the Blue Jackets. But their reign of just being the top dog, where they control, metaphorically speaking, where they control everything, where they have Columbus by the balls, where they whip Columbus, is done. That's not coming back. Instead of just being 100% Ohio State, it's done. It's now 70%, 70, 80%. With the other 20 to 30% being Blue Jackets, Crew, Clippers, and a whole bunch of other stuff that help make Columbus better and get Columbus away from this stupid, idiotic Ohio State only nonsense. You can have Ohio State. You can do this, you can do that, but you can also have the Blue Jackets and so much more that helps Columbus be better. It helps change their perception that no, it's not just Ohio State anymore. It's the Blue Jackets and the Crew, the Clippers, and so much more. So, a demographic changes has been happening, it's coming, and it will continue to happen. And it's not going to stop. Starting, well, at least a couple years ago, but even more so now, you will have people that have grown up in a world where they went to Blue Jackets games and now they're grown up, they're married, they have kids, and they're going to take their kids to Blue Jackets games. And their kids are going to grow up and they're going to take their kids to Blue Jackets games and so on and so forth. And then the cycle repeats. It continues again and again and again and again and again. That's just how it is. Columbus, the Blue Jackets are already an important part of Columbus. They've always had good fans, good fan base, good support, but it's going to be even better now. And I like it, and I'm just interested to see how it goes and how big it gets. Am I saying that the Blue Jackets will be number one in Columbus? No. As cool as that would be, I would love that very much, but that's not going to happen. But it's become a strong 1B where you have 1A is Ohio State, 1B is the Blue Jackets. It's that big, that important. So, anyways, I think I'm about done now. God, I've talked for over an hour here, but that's all I have to say for now is just that when a demographic change is coming and it's going to make Columbus better. People who grew up in a world going to Blue Jackets games that are now grown up, they're married, have kids, and now they're going to take their kids to Blue Jackets games, and their kids will grow up and take their kids to Blue Jackets games. The cycle continues and on and on and on, again and again and again. And there will be more Blue Jackets fans, and the Blue Jackets fan base, which was already good, has gotten stronger and will continue to get bigger and better and stronger. So that's all I have to say for now. So CBJ, CBJ, CBJ. Let's go Jackets. Let's go Jackets. Right here, baby. Right here. Right here. Blue Jackets, baby. CBJ, CBJ, CBJ. Let's go Jackets. Let's go Jackets. CBJ, CBJ.